Well, thank you very much, Shri Rath, Dr. Sharma, the colleagues, Mr. Singhal, and I see many other eminent people from the industry in the oil and gas sector. Very good morning to all of you. So on a very general note, when we talk about natural gas, we need to see in the national perspective that India, a huge country, has huge demand and has been a net importer of oil and gas. And we should know that we import more than 80% of our crude requirements and also more or less about 50% of our gas requirement. And when we talk about gas, it's limited to, I would say, more of a consumption in nature. The target, the vision that the government has set, that they should support all initiatives to achieve a contribution of about 15% in the primary energy mix from gas is a tall order. To my mind, about 4 to 5 years back, 2011-12, we had the gas consumption in the primary mix to perhaps a double figure, 10 to 11%. But then last year, if you see, it has come down to just about 6.5%. So from a present level of 6.5% to 15% is going to be a tall order. Unless there are initiatives in all areas like policy, regulatory framework. I'm sure Mr. Rath is really driving several new initiatives on that. Also, the industry's responsibility to bring in investments in infrastructure, supported by other government policies on a very stable fiscal regime. All these things are needed, then only we can really expect the gas contribution to primary energy mix to go up. We are very honored and by taking note of our Prime Minister's statement that India should transition to a gas-based economy about 2 years back. If we really see what all has happened in the last 2 years, unfortunately there's not been many initiatives to promote gas. And when we talk about gas, also LNG in the country as an industrial fuel or in automotives or CGD, it has not been a success story so far. In fact, I see that the landed cost of the LNG, regasified LNG at the customer's end, has actually only gone up. On the other hand, the two major sectors that consume maximum gas, the fertilizers and power, are also struggling. So we need to really look at the scenario where gas or LNG, which is itself regulated in terms of the government has a mechanism to set the pricing. Also, the two major consuming sectors, power and fertilizer, are also regulated in terms of product pricing and or the tariff. So it's very difficult for gas to really have more consumption in these two sectors unless the regulatory mechanism is changed and we are more moving towards more market driven scenario. But there are certain very positives and opportunities that exist, and one of them has been in the automotive sector actually, and I'm very happy that this specific theme has been taken for this conference. If you see in the energy mix, particularly the fossil fuels, about 17-18% of the consumption is actually in the automotive sector. Now, if you replace this with gas, this is a great opportunity. And I think in this regard, we should learn something from some of the countries that they have demonstrated through their not only policy matters, but also very, very concentrated efforts to develop. Our neighbor China, for example, has about more than 2,000 dispensing units. The vehicle count is about, to my understanding, about 180,000 to around 200,000. Of the, if you see the gas-based vehicles, the number is very large. I'm talking about out of the gas-based vehicles that are plying and used in the China, 200,000 approximately, or maybe 185, 200,000 are LNG vehicles. So this is very specific that they have really grown in last 4 or 5 years. But then all this growth has to be supported by policy decisions by the market. Now when we talk about India, we see, I was happy to see that the first LCNG station has been launched, which I remember in my previous company, somewhere around 2015 or so, or no, it was much earlier than that. There was a hotelier in Baroda who approached us for the first time, and he said, "Sir, we want to use LNG and we want to replace the LPG that we use in our hotel." It was a big hotel in Baroda. And we said, "Fine, let's work together." We worked out a mechanism, and it isn't really complicated. I must say that LNG based technologies are much simpler, they are much safer compared to CNG or any other oil and gas or LPG systems. So we worked out on that, but it was very hard to convince our Chief Explosive Inspector at Nagpur that this is a workable solution. It is much safer than LPG, and we can demonstrate that. But somehow it was not agreed to. That was long back, about 6-7 years back on that. I hope that the appreciation of LNG technologies, that they are much safer, better and friendly to use, must be driven, and this should be supported by policy matters on this. The other area of concern to my mind is that the vehicle manufacturer, why should they change from the existing to LNG automobile? What is the incentive for them? I have personally had a number of discussions with the two countries' top vehicle manufacturers, heavy vehicle as also car manufacturers. We brought in foreign companies, we gave them a lot of literature, we said we'll be partnering to you, but bring out prototype, think about it, this is a trend that is happening. But then I don't see that kind of urgency with these vehicle manufacturers to really shift to LNG. For a consumer also, why should I go to an LNG vehicle if there are no benefits in that? Benefits of price, benefits of running cost, maintenance cost, and same is the for automobile manufacturer, whether it makes sense for them, it is cheaper, it is better, and it is sort of supported by the policies with some incentives. So I think there is a whole lot of things that need to be done as to why in the automotive industry the vehicle manufacturer should change over to LNG. And I think that should be one area, and I'd like this conference to really debate on that and give recommendations that this should be supported by government. As far as technology is concerned, I think we have had several projects executed where we have the LNG satellite hubs there. Almost a dozen are working now in the country. But the LCNG hubs, where you can cater to multiple stakeholders, multiple type of consumers, like your industrial consumers, your CNG vehicle operators, your LNG vehicle operators, you can supply for a pipe gas to a household. Everything can be done by one LCNG. So it makes sense, it is usage of right technology, and for a country of our size where we cannot have the pipelines everywhere, I think this is a really good solution on this. So I think these are the issues to my mind, and there's no doubt that gas as such is cleaner fuel compared to the liquid fuels. And when we compare our domestic gas with LNG, then LNG is even more purer in that terms of emissions and all. And I think is the purest form of fuel, fossil fuel that we can get it today. The role of gas, and that too LNG also, in the overall mix, I think requires a lot of support from the industry and from the government. And then unless that is done, I don't see that the gas would find its really a good portion in the energy mix. It has to be supported by all around this thing. I think there are many things that we can talk about, but I thought these are the issues that are pertaining, very relevant for today's conference, and I'm happy to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me, and we'll discuss, I think, few points today as we move on. Thank you very much.